Que Pasa, bienvenido. Welcome back to News and Views with Daniel Jehl, and here today with Tim Zink and with Raul, our technician. Every once in a while, I get very excited about an issue, and the Girl Scout issue is one of them, and so I just could not stop there. So that's why we had an intermission there, and it was hard for me to stop talking. So we're going to get back to that one. But we can do that because of our sponsor, John Rogers, attorney at law in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And if it's a full-service menu, if you need an attorney, John Rogers is the person to go to. Free consultation, free parking, and located at 444 Main Street in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I will provide his phone number, but if you need an attorney, John Rogers is the person to talk to. Covers all types of problemos that may require legal help. His number in Espanol is 260 area code, number 704-0682. In English, same area code, 260-426-0674. And we thank John Rogers for our sponsor, and we thank all of our listeners and so on for our show today. Fernando Sapari will return tomorrow. He has returned from vacation, and will return at the normal time at noon, mediodía, tomorrow, Que Pasa. And then on Wednesday and Friday, Tim Zink and I will be back for News and Views. I should call it with Daniel Jehl and Tim Zink, because that's pretty much what we're doing here. But I want to say something about that. On Wednesday, we are calling in to Lucas da Silva, one of the 5 walkers for the Dream Act, to walk across America, and we will be talking to Lucas bilingually, 2 languages going on there, for the Wednesday show, and talk about who won the primaries in Arizona and whatever else. And in fact, go to Facebook, as we suggested before. Any topics you would like us to talk about, we certainly will. Friday is going to be a special day here. Friday, there's a group in Washington, D.C., and they also have an office in Phoenix, Arizona. It's called the Dream Group. The Dream Group. Erica Andiola, who has been on Que Pasa before a few weeks ago, also bilingual. This will be Wednesday and Friday. We're going to have 2 bilingual presentations here. Will report to us on what's going on right now in Arizona with their law, which, you know, they have actually had to cut back on implementing their immigration law. And Sheriff Joe Arpaio, he's facing some charges after a federal grand jury investigation for racial profiling against Hispanics. And the Dream Act, I mean, her main passion is the Dream Act. And immigration, with comments about the national candidates for presidential election, and her opinions, and the Dream Group, they're called the Dream Group, the Dream Group's opinions on the national candidates, including President Barack Obama and the Republican candidates. So Wednesday, Friday, we've got some bilingual presentations coming up here that are going to be very, very timely and into this thing. But back to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and our representative in Fort Wayne, Representative Bob Morris, and his comments about the Girl Scouts. Very negative comments. Yesterday in the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, Win Moses, a Republican, Democratic legislator. How did I slip up on that one? Okay. He had a tremendous editorial in the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. And he talked about how it's a sideshow, it's a distraction that Representative Bob Morris created. And it was so unnecessary. I mean, if you have a problem with the National Girl Scout, whatever he's accusing them of being affiliated with Planned Parenthood and so on, then he should have taken it to them and not being doing it publicly, which he's continuing to do, not only through his memo that he sent to his fellow legislators in Indianapolis, who, by the way, did not support him They all bought Girl Scout cookies instead to show they don't support him. But he's now been on WOWO radio. He's being interviewed this week also on our CBS affiliate station here in Fort Wayne. So he's not giving up on this idea. Win Moses, thank you for stepping up to the plate. He calls it, this is a you've got to be kidding me moment. Everyone was surprised. This came out of nowhere. And he's talking about the beauty of free speech is that we can do this, but we're not allowed to cry fire in a crowded theater. So what he's pointing out is that freedom of speech is our freedom, but it's not totally unrestricted. I mean, there are some national security. You can't shout fire in a movie theater.
It's true, but...
Where did freedom... Is that the First Amendment?
Yeah, that's the First Amendment. I mean, well, he's still free to say whatever he wants. It's just, there may be political ramifications of it, that's all.
Well, that's exactly what he goes on to say, Tim. That's really it. And he's saying you can say whatever you please. It's just what you said. And you didn't even read this, did you? And he's saying that he's Win Moses, our representative, Democratic Win Moses from Fort Wayne, is a defender of the First Amendment. It says, I would not deny that opportunity to anybody. But you have to use some common sense, is the point that Win Moses went on to say. But here's the sad part about it. And what I mean by sad is that I consider Bob Morris is failing with his judgment in how he went about this. Now, people can agree with him. I have no problem with that. That's freedom of speech. Or disagree. That's freedom of speech. It's the way he went about this. That's what Win Moses is getting at here. He says, Morris's words hurt my granddaughter, a Girl Scout, my daughter, a former Girl Scout, and is now a Girl Scout leader, and all the Girl Scouts in Fort Wayne in the state of Indiana and around the nation. See, when legislators and public officials make public comments, let's say you and I are going to decide today that we have a problem with the YMCA or some other group. We're not just going to go and be on talk shows and blast them and use some internet research that isn't really reliable websites. In fact, the websites that Bob Morris used, I looked them up. We couldn't use them in writing newspaper stories. It's like Wikipedia. You can't use those websites, they're way too biased. But it's the way he went about it. He says, Morris's words hurt women everywhere. Boy, Win Moses is hitting pretty hard here. Morris's words hurt the image of Northeast Indiana and our entire state. Well, that's another thing. Fort Wayne wants to be in the news in Indiana, not for bad news.
It seems like it's bad news.
I mean, well, and now.
But then most news is bad news.
And not always. I mean, Fort Wayne has won 3 All-American awards.
I mean, in general.
In general, you're absolutely right. And Win Moses goes on to say that it's been on CNN and the Washington Post, Forbes magazine, Twitter, Facebook, and you can go on and on. I mean, I've seen it on MSNBC and other stations and so on. It hurts the image of his fellow Republicans. See, his fellow Republicans really are not sticking up for him. And fifth and most important, Win Moses said, issues like this distract the entire legislature from doing the people's business. What does he mean by that?
Yeah, well, there's more important things to worry about. Like, there's a lot of financial problems, a lot of issues to deal with, and this is burning up political capital, I guess you could say.
The people's business would be the legislative business that they and this is not in. All this was a resolution to honor a 100-year anniversary. Now that's important for the Girl Scouts or for any group that has a resolution such as that. But there's other things that the legislators need to be doing, and they are. I mean, in Indiana and elsewhere. I see your point, Tim. In fact, when Moses says we need jobs in this state, we need to deal with utility rates, we need deal with healthcare. We need to deal with crime. I would think those topics are more important than worrying about what the National Organization of the Girl Scouts promote.
This
Well, Tim and I are actually agreeing. Now, Tim and I also disagree, but this one we're agreeing on. So, thank you for Win Moses for doing that. Okay, looking ahead, we talked about Tim Friday's show for. We will be having the Green Group representative, Erica Andiola, on the show, bilingual. And Wednesday, we are scheduling Lucas Da Silva, one of the 5 walkers. By the way, as an update on the walkers, campaign for Dream Act, Walk Across America, 3,000-mile walk. It starts March the 9th or 10th and proceeds all the way to Washington, D.C. from San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. Starts March the 10th for the Dream Act. And all the walkers now, they're from 5 different states. They're all now in San Francisco preparing for the walk. So it'll be interesting to hear from Lucas, and we'll be doing this as we continue on. And actually, I should say, as the walkers continue on. We will be getting updates and find out where Lucas is at when he gets to Nevada and when he gets to Utah and as he approaches Indiana and so on. So that's all good. Okay, so that'll be on Wednesday on RadioLatinoTV.com, Pasa.